"Don't move, you're in a trap," Black Waitress slipped a note to the billionaire. "What if a single moment of courage from a stranger could save your life?" Jasmine Washington had been serving tables at Rosewood Diner for 3 years, and she'd learned to read people like an open book. But when she saw the well-dressed man in the corner booth checking his gold watch for the 3rd time, something felt terribly wrong. His hands trembled slightly as he sipped his coffee, and his eyes kept darting toward the parking lot where 2 men in dark suits sat in a black sedan, watching. The man looked successful, maybe even wealthy, but right now he looked scared. Jasmine had seen fear before. Growing up in a rough neighborhood taught you to recognize danger. Her grandmother always said, "When you see trouble brewing, you either walk away or you step up." As she approached his table with the coffee pot, Jasmine made her choice. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness happen between perfect strangers. "Where are you watching from today?" Jasmine's shift at Rosewood Diner usually followed the same comfortable rhythm. The morning crowd knew her by name, and she knew exactly how Mr. Peterson liked his eggs and that Mrs. Chin always asked for extra honey with her biscuits. At 28, she'd been working here since college, saving every tip to help her younger brother finish his engineering degree. The diner wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work, and the regular customers felt like family. But today felt different. The man in the expensive navy suit had arrived 30 minutes ago, ordering coffee and toast he barely touched. He introduced himself as James Mitchell when she first approached his table, polite but clearly distracted. His wedding ring caught the morning light, and she noticed a small photo tucked in his wallet, a beautiful woman with kind eyes and a little girl with pigtails. Everything about him suggested success and stability, yet he kept glancing nervously toward the window. The 2 men in the parking lot had been there since James arrived. They weren't eating, weren't talking, just watching. Jasmine had worked in this neighborhood long enough to know when something wasn't right. Her instincts, honed by years of reading customers and situations, were screaming that James was in trouble. "More coffee, Mr. Mitchell?" she asked, approaching his table with practiced calm. Up close, she could see the stress lines around his eyes, the way his jaw clenched when he thought no one was looking. He was a handsome man, probably in his early 40s, with graying temples that suggested wisdom earned through experience. But right now, he looked like someone carrying an unbearable weight. "Please," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. As she poured, she noticed his phone buzzing repeatedly on the table. The caller ID showed unknown number each time, and James's face grew paler with every ring. He finally answered on the 4th call. "I'm here," he said into the phone, his voice tight. "I have the information you wanted." There was a pause, and Jasmine pretended to wipe down nearby tables while listening. "No, I won't involve the police. I understand what happens if I do." Another pause. 20 minutes. "I'll wait for your signal." James hung up and dropped his head into his hands. Jasmine's heart raced as the pieces clicked together. This wasn't a business meeting or a casual breakfast. Someone was using this good man as a pawn in something dangerous. She thought about her grandmother's words, "Evil flourishes when good people do nothing." The 2 men in the sedan had gotten out and were now positioned at different corners of the parking lot. Professional. Deliberate. James hadn't noticed them yet, but Jasmine could see they were closing in, creating a perimeter around the diner's entrance. Whatever was about to happen, James was walking into it blind. She thought about her brother, about the regular customers who trusted her, about the kind of person she wanted to be. Then she thought about that photo in James's wallet, the woman and little girl who were probably waiting for him to come home safely. Sometimes being a good person meant taking a risk for someone you barely knew. Jasmine grabbed her order pad and made a decision that would change both their lives forever. Jasmine's hands moved quickly across the notepad, her heart pounding as she wrote the warning. She'd seen enough crime shows with her grandmother to know that dangerous people often used public places for their business, counting on innocent bystanders to stay silent and uninvolved. But something about James, maybe the wedding ring or the photo of his family, made her think of her own father, who'd worked 2 jobs to keep their family safe and never came home complaining about the sacrifices. "Don't move, you're in a trap," she wrote in careful letters. Two men outside watching you. Black sedan. They've been here since you arrived. Do you need help? She folded the paper and slipped it under his coffee cup as she refilled it once more. James looked up, confused at first, then his eyes found the note. She watched his face change as he read it. Surprise, then fear, then something that might have been relief. He looked up at her with questions in his eyes, and she gave the slightest nod toward the window. When he turned to look, she saw his shoulders tense as he finally noticed what had been right there all along. How long have they been there? He whispered, pretending to check his phone. Since you got here, Jasmine replied quietly, refilling sugar dispensers at nearby tables. Are you in trouble? Should I call the police? James shook his head quickly. No police. They made that very clear. His voice carried the weight of someone who'd been pushed into an impossible situation. I have information they want. Documents from my company. They're threatening my family if I don't cooperate. Jasmine's heart broke a little. Here was a man who'd probably worked his whole life to build something good, to provide for the people he loved, and now someone was using that love against him. She thought about her own family, how far she'd go to protect her brother, her mother. The answer scared her because she knew there wasn't any line she wouldn't cross. What kind of documents? She asked, moving to wipe down his table so they could speak more naturally. Financial records. Our company recently uncovered some illegal activities by a former business partner. I was supposed to testify next week, but somehow they found out. They want the evidence destroyed, and they want me to disappear before the trial. The weight of his situation settled over both of them. These weren't petty criminals, this was organized, sophisticated, and dangerous. Jasmine glanced around the familiar diner, at elderly Mr. Harrison reading his morning paper, at young couple sharing pancakes in the corner booth. All these innocent people had no idea what was unfolding just tables away. There's a back exit through the kitchen, Jasmine said softly. It leads to the alley. Jasmine met his eyes, thinking of her grandmother's lessons about courage and kindness. Because it's the right thing to do. And because someone who keeps pictures of their family close to their heart deserves to make it home to them. If this moment touched your heart, please give the video a thumbs up. The phone in James's pocket buzzed again. Time was running out, and the trap was about to spring closed. The unknown caller's message was brief but chilling. Walk outside now. Come alone. Any deviation, and your wife and daughter pay the price. James's hands shook as he showed Jasmine the text, and she could see the impossible weight of his decision crushing him. Here was a successful man, probably someone who'd spent his career solving problems and taking control, now completely powerless to protect what mattered most. They have surveillance on my house, James whispered, his voice breaking slightly. They showed me pictures of my daughter getting on her school bus this morning. They know her route, her schedule, everything. He pulled out his wallet and showed Jasmine the family photo, the same woman and little girl she'd glimpsed earlier, but now they weren't just strangers in a picture. They were a father's whole world, and they were in danger because he'd tried to do the right thing. Jasmine thought about her own family, about the lengths her parents had gone to protect her and her brother. Her father had worked double shifts when money was tight, never letting on how exhausted he was. Her mother had walked her to school every day through rough neighborhoods, always alert, always vigilant. Love made people vulnerable, but it also made them fierce. She could see both qualities warring in James's eyes. There has to be another way, Jasmine said quietly, her mind racing. She'd grown up in a world where you learned to think fast and trust your instincts. What if they think you're cooperating but you're actually buying time? Time for what? The police can't help. These people have connections everywhere. My lawyer says even witness protection isn't guaranteed. James ran his hands through his hair, the weight of weeks of threats and sleepless nights evident in every gesture. I've got a successful business, a beautiful family, everything I worked 20 years to build. And now I have to choose between justice and protecting the people I love most. Jasmine understood that kind of impossible choice. She'd watched her parents make sacrifices, seen her mother work cleaning offices at night while going to nursing school during the day, also their children could have better opportunities. Sometimes doing the right thing meant bearing an unbearable cost. You know what my grandmother used to say? Jasmine asked, still cleaning tables but moving closer to his booth. She said bad people count on good people being too scared to fight back. They use our love against us because they know we'll always choose to protect our families. She paused, meeting his eyes. But maybe that's exactly what makes us stronger than them. James looked at her with growing hope mixed with desperation. What do you mean? I mean they're counting on you being alone and terrified. But you're not alone anymore. Jasmine had made her decision, the same way her parents had made theirs when faced with impossible odds. And sometimes the best way to protect your family is to make sure these people can never threaten anyone else's family again. The phone buzzed again. 60 seconds. Walk out now, or we visit your daughter's school. Have you ever faced something like this? Let us know in the comments. James stood up slowly, but instead of defeat in his eyes, Jasmine saw something new, determination mixed with desperate hope. The trap was closing, but maybe, just maybe, they could turn it around. Give me your phone, Jasmine said quickly, her mind working faster than it ever had. James handed it over, confusion and trust battling in his expression. She opened his camera and switched it to record, then slipped the phone into her apron pocket with the lens facing out. When you go out there, everything they say will be recorded. That's evidence even dirty cops can't ignore. James stared at her in amazement. You're going to risk yourself for someone you met an hour ago? My grandmother survived worse than this, Jasmine replied, thinking of the stories that had shaped her childhood, tales of ordinary people finding extraordinary courage when others needed them most. And she always said that evil people make one big mistake: they think good people won't fight back smart. The plan formed quickly between them. James would walk outside as instructed, but Jasmine would slip out the back exit and position herself where she could call for help if things went wrong. She'd already texted her brother, who was studying computer science, asking him to have his phone ready to contact the FBI if she sent him a code word. These men think they're dealing with a terrified businessman, Jasmine explained quietly. They don't know about the waitress who grew up in a neighborhood where you learned to be 3 steps ahead of trouble. They definitely don't know about her little brother who can get a message to federal authorities in about 30 seconds. James felt something he hadn't experienced in weeks: hope. This young woman had seen him at his most vulnerable, and instead of walking away, she'd stepped forward. Her courage reminded him why he decided to testify in the first place, because staying silent meant other innocent people would suffer. If this goes wrong, James began. It won't, Jasmine interrupted with the quiet confidence of someone who'd been underestimated her whole life. And even if it does, your family will know their husband and father died fighting for what was right, not running from it. James walked toward the door, but now his steps weren't those of a defeated man walking to his execution. They were the steady, determined steps of someone who'd found his strength again. As he reached for the handle, Jasmine called out softly, "Mr. Mitchell." He turned back. "Your daughter is lucky to have a father who cares more about doing right than playing it safe. Make sure you get home to tell her that story." Outside, the 2 men approached as James emerged. Their leader, a thin man with cold eyes, smiled like a predator who'd cornered his prey. "Mr. Mitchell, I trust you have what we discussed." "I do," James replied, his voice steady now. Unknown to them, every word was being captured by the phone in Jasmine's pocket as she positioned herself near the kitchen window. "Excellent. Our employer will be pleased. Of course, this arrangement requires your permanent silence about certain business matters." That's when Jasmine realized these men never intended to let James walk away alive. The recording device captured everything but Jasmine had one more card to play, one that would turn their predatory confidence into panicked retreat. What the men didn't know was that Jasmine's brother Kevin had already alerted his computer science professor, who happened to be a former FBI cybercrime specialist. Within minutes of receiving Jasmine's coded text, 3 federal agents were en route to Rosewood Diner. The professor had recognized the signs of a witness intimidation case immediately. As the confrontation escalated outside, Jasmine made a decision that surprised everyone, including herself. She walked straight out the front door, carrying a fresh pot of coffee and wearing the biggest smile she could manage. "Excuse me, gentlemen," she called out cheerfully, approaching the group as if she had no idea what was happening. "Mr. Mitchell, you left your wallet inside. And I wondered if your friends would like some coffee? It's a beautiful morning to sit and chat." The two men turned, clearly annoyed by the interruption. But Jasmine's unexpected presence had accomplished something crucial. It broke their psychological control over the situation. James was no longer an isolated victim. He had an ally, and witnesses were watching from the diner windows. "We're not interested in coffee," the leader said coldly. "Oh, that's fine," Jasmine replied, still smiling. "I just wanted to mention that my boyfriend should be here any minute. He's an FBI agent, and he gets so cranky when he has to work on his day off. But I called him when I saw you gentlemen waiting in the parking lot for so long. I thought maybe you needed assistance." It was a complete lie, but delivered with such cheerful conviction that doubt flickered across the men's faces. In that moment of uncertainty, they heard the distant sound of sirens approaching. The leader's composure cracked. "This isn't over, Mitchell," he snarled, but he was already backing toward the sedan. Both men climbed in and drove away quickly, just as two FBI vehicles rounded the corner. James stood there, hardly believing what had just happened. The nightmare that had consumed his life for weeks was over, ended by a waitress with more courage than any of the powerful people he'd begged for help. 3 hours later, after statements and evidence collection, James found Jasmine finishing her shift. The recording had provided exactly what the FBI needed to expand their investigation, and James's family was now under federal protection until the trial. "I don't know how to thank you," James said quietly. "You don't need to thank me," Jasmine replied. "Just go home to your family. Hug your wife and daughter. Tell them about the importance of standing up for what's right, even when it's scary." James smiled, thinking about the conversation he'd have with his little girl that evening, about brave people who help strangers, about doing the right thing even when it's dangerous, and about how sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one nobody expects. 2 months later, a thank you card arrived at Rosewood Diner. Inside was a photo of James with his wife and daughter at a playground, all of them smiling. The note simply read, "Jasmine, because of your courage, we get to make new memories together. Thank you for reminding us that heroes come in all forms. With love and gratitude, the Mitchell family." Jasmine pinned it next to the register where she could see it every day, a reminder that sometimes the smallest acts of courage create the biggest changes in the world. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more heartwarming tales. Thank you for joining us on this journey of courage and kindness.